What if Count Dooku helped fight Darth Maul during the Phantom Menace? That is our story for today. So let's dive in. Our story begins on Coruscant. The Jedi Temple rose like a monument of serenity on Coruscant's skyline, its spires piercing the evening haze. Within its halls, silence reigned, disturbed only by the faint hum of meditation chambers and the shuffle of robes across polished floors. Yet beneath that calm veneer, the currents of the Force swirled with unease. Count Dooku of Sereno, one of the Order's most esteemed masters, stood alone in a high chamber. He was tall, regal, his features carved with the severity of nobility and the weariness of a man who had seen too much of the Republic's decay. His hands were clasped behind his back as he gazed upon the cityscape beyond the transparent steel windows. The traffic of Coruscant streamed endlessly below, ships darting like fireflies in the dusk. But his mind was elsewhere, troubled, restless. The Force whispered to him, and its whispers had become darker of late. He had long sensed the coming of shadows, yet the Council dismissed his warnings as paranoia, as they had with so many others. But now his own former apprentice, Qui-Gon Jinn, had returned from the Outer Rim with troubling news. A warrior of the dark side had revealed himself. The chamber doors slid open with a soft hiss. "Master Dooku," came a familiar voice, steady and resolute. Dooku turned, and there stood Qui-Gon Jinn, broad-shouldered, bearded, his long hair tied loosely behind him. His robes were dusted from travel, and his expression was grave. At his side lingered his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi, the ever-watchful apprentice who said little but saw much. "Qui-Gon," Dooku said, his tone a rare mixture of sternness and warmth. "I hear you've returned with tales that have unsettled even the Council." Qui-Gon inclined his head. "I encountered a Sith Lord, Master." His voice carried weight, not exaggeration. "On Tatooine, he came for the boy." At this, Dooku's brow furrowed. "The Council said you faced a warrior of the dark side, but a Sith? Impossible. They have been extinct for a millennium." "With respect, Master," Qui-Gon countered, stepping closer. "I know what I faced. His skill with a lightsaber, his command of the dark side, there is no mistaking it. The Sith have returned." Dooku's eyes narrowed. He studied his old student with a piercing gaze, but he found no trace of doubt in him. The truth pressed against his own conscience. He knew Qui-Gon was right, for he himself had been courted by the shadow he now feared had returned in full. "Tell me of this boy," Dooku said instead, diverting, "the one the Council has been whispering about." Qui-Gon's expression softened, and he gestured toward Obi-Wan, who shifted slightly, his curiosity piqued. "Anakin Skywalker," Qui-Gon said quietly, as though the name itself carried weight. "He is strong with the Force, stronger than any child I've ever encountered. I believe he is the chosen one of prophecy. The one who will bring balance to the Force," Dooku murmured, his voice laced with skepticism. Yet in the pit of his stomach something stirred. Balance. Balance against what? Against the rising tide of darkness he had long feared, and now, perhaps, embraced. Qui-Gon continued, his conviction unshaken. "The Sith's reappearance is no coincidence. The boy's discovery, the attack on us, it is all connected. The Force is speaking, Master. Anakin is the key." Dooku turned his back, staring once more at the endless streams of light across Coruscant. The words tore at him. He had chosen long ago to drift from the Council's will, to see the galaxy's corruption for what it was. Sidious had promised him the means to reshape it, to bring order. But here was Qui-Gon, the closest thing he had to family, speaking of destiny and balance. "And the Council?" Dooku asked, his tone heavy. "They do not see it," Qui-Gon admitted. "They are bound by caution, by fear of what this means, but I—" He drew a breath. "I must follow the will of the Force." Dooku slowly turned, his piercing eyes locked onto his former Padawan. For a moment, neither spoke. "Ever the stubborn one," Dooku finally said, almost wistfully. "You were always willing to defy the Council, to pursue truth no matter the cost." Qui-Gon allowed a small smile. "I learned that from you, Master." That admission cut deeper than Qui-Gon could know. Dooku's face betrayed nothing, but inside, the war raged. He had already walked too far into the darkness, already aligned himself with Sidious, the same Dark Master who surely commanded this warrior, Qui-Gon described, Darth Maul, the Zabrak assassin, Sidious's blade in the shadows, and if Maul had failed to kill Qui-Gon once, Sidious would demand he try again. Dooku dismissed Obi-Wan with a curt nod. "Padawan Kenobi, leave us. I would speak to Qui-Gon alone." Obi-Wan hesitated, his eyes flickering between master and former master. But at Qui-Gon's gentle nod, he bowed and departed. When the chamber doors sealed again, silence filled the room. "You are in danger," Dooku said at last, his voice low. "You and Obi-Wan both. If this was truly a Sith you faced, he will not relent until you are destroyed." Qui-Gon regarded him steadily. "I sensed that much. But I do not fear him. If Anakin is trained, if the prophecy is true, he will end this darkness once and for all." "Anakin is but a boy," Dooku replied sharply, though his words were more defense than argument. "A boy cannot stand against the Sith." "Not yet," Qui-Gon agreed. "But with the right training." Dooku's jaw tightened. He could not ignore the pull he felt in those words. Perhaps the Force itself was stirring. Perhaps the Chosen One had come, just as prophecy foretold. And if that were true, then all of Sidious's promises were nothing but lies. Lies to enslave the galaxy under his rule. The air grew tense, heavy with unspoken truths. Dooku considered confessing then, revealing the depth of his betrayal, the meetings in the shadows, the whispers of Sidious. But shame silenced him. Instead he placed a hand on Qui-Gon's shoulder, something he had not done since his days as his master. "Be careful, my old Padawan," he said. "The shadows are deeper than you know. Trust the Force and trust yourself, for the Council surely will not." Qui-Gon looked at him, puzzled by the gravity in his tone. "Master, what is it you are not telling me?" But Dooku turned away, his cape sweeping as he strode toward the window. "Go," he said simply. "Prepare for Naboo. The Senate has placed its hopes in you. Do not fail them." For a moment Qui-Gon lingered, as though he might press the question further, but sensing Dooku's distance, he bowed. "May the Force be with you." As the doors closed once more, Dooku exhaled, his hand trembling slightly at his side. He could almost hear Sidious's voice echoing in his mind, the promises of power, of control. But now another vision burned brighter, a boy with eyes of fire and innocence, a boy who might tip the scales of destiny, the Chosen One. And as night fell over Coruscant, Count Dooku of Sereno realized his path was no longer certain. The Sith demanded loyalty, the Jedi demanded faith. But the Force itself was calling him to choose. For the first time in many years, Dooku truly did not know which side he would stand upon. The world of Naboo burned with conflict. The elegant cities and pristine meadows had become battlefields. Trade Federation droids marched in endless ranks, their metallic voices droning commands, while Naboo's pilots and ground forces fought desperately to reclaim their home. Amid the chaos within the Grand Palace at Theed, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi pressed forward, determined to reach the hangar and confront the enemy commander. Their mission was clear: capture Viceroy Gunray and force an end to the blockade. But in the shadows, a far deadlier enemy awaited. The hangar doors slid open, and there stood Darth Maul, horned, tattooed, his yellow-red eyes burning with hatred. With deliberate menace, he ignited his lightsaber. One crimson blade sprang to life, then another opposite the first, a double-bladed weapon unseen in generations. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan froze for only a heartbeat. Then Qui-Gon's voice, calm but firm: "We'll handle this." Obi-Wan's saber ignited in response. Together they advanced. Far above Coruscant, Count Dooku's ship cut through hyperspace, racing toward Naboo. He sat alone in the cockpit, the swirling tunnel of light stretching infinitely before him. His heart pounded in his chest. He had not gone to the industrial sector as Sidious commanded. He had not gone to kneel before his dark master to await Maul's victory. Instead, he had chosen a path unthinkable: to intervene. Sidious would know of his betrayal, there was no doubt, and the punishment for betrayal was death. But the Force tugged at him, urging him onward. He could not ignore the rising storm, the emergence of the Chosen One, nor the danger his former apprentice faced. If Qui-Gon fell, the galaxy's future might crumble with him. Dooku closed his eyes, his voice a whisper. "Forgive me," he said, though he did not know if the words were for Qui-Gon or for himself. The ship burst from hyperspace, revealing Naboo's emerald sphere ahead. Dooku tightened his grip on the controls. Theed's plasma refinery blazed with light and sound, a labyrinth of catwalks, columns, and glowing energy beams. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan fought Maul fiercely, the Sith's double blades spinning in deadly arcs. Sparks flew as red clashed with green and blue. Obi-Wan pressed from the flank, fast and aggressive, while Qui-Gon kept centered, steady as a mountain. Yet Maul's ferocity was overwhelming. His every strike was fueled by hatred, his movements a blur of rage and precision. A kick sent Obi-Wan crashing to the lower level, grunting as he tumbled across the floor. Maul sneered and drove Qui-Gon back, luring him toward the reactor core. Qui-Gon stood firm, his breaths controlled, but his strength was being tested. From the far end of the chamber, heavy footsteps echoed. A tall figure in flowing robes strode into view. Qui-Gon's eyes widened. "Master Dooku?" Maul froze, his snarl replaced with a look of confusion, then fury. Another Jedi. Worse, a Jedi Master. Dooku's curved hilt saber snapped into his hand, its crimson ignition button glinting in the plasma light. With a hiss, a brilliant blue blade surged forth. He stepped into the chamber, placing himself between Maul and the narrowing reactor passage. "Enough!" Dooku's voice rang, deep and commanding. "This ends here." Maul's eyes darted between them. Qui-Gon, steady and relentless, and Dooku, tall and composed, his presence in the Force radiating mastery. He had faced two Jedi once before, and it had nearly been too much. But two masters. For the first time, doubt flickered in the Sith apprentice's eyes. Qui-Gon seized the moment. "Together, Master!" Dooku inclined his head, his expression unreadable. "Stay close, Qui-Gon! Do not give him space!" With a roar, Maul lunged. His double blade slashed in a furious whirl, forcing both Jedi to parry. Dooku's blade moved like water, refined and economical, each stroke placed with absolute precision. Qui-Gon met Maul's fury with endurance, absorbing blow after blow. For a moment the clash was even. Sparks lit the chamber like fireflies, the hum of sabers rising into a storm. But Maul faltered. With Dooku at his side, Qui-Gon's defenses no longer buckled. Obi-Wan, regaining his footing below, leapt back into the fray, his saber igniting with a snap hiss. Now Maul was pressed on three sides. Red against green and blue, the balance had shifted. The duel reached the reactor chamber. Catwalks stretched above a seemingly endless abyss, plasma surging below like the lifeblood of the planet. Maul fought with desperation now, his strikes wild but vicious. He aimed to divide them, to break their unity. A spinning sweep forced Obi-Wan back, a brutal shove staggered Qui-Gon. But when he turned to press the attack, Dooku was already there, intercepting with flawless timing. Their blades locked, red against blue. Dooku's eyes narrowed. "You are skilled, boy, but not enough." With a twist of his wrist, Dooku sliced off Maul's left blade, sending it sparking into the abyss. Qui-Gon surged forward, his strikes raining down. Maul blocked frantically, his breath ragged. Then, in a flash of movement so swift it was almost invisible, Dooku's blade swept across. The chamber echoed with the hiss of severed flesh. Maul froze, his eyes wide with shock. His horned head tumbled free, body collapsing backward into the void, vanishing into darkness below. Silence. Only the crackle of plasma and the steady hum of lightsabers remained. Qui-Gon exhaled, lowering his weapon. Obi-Wan stared, stunned. Dooku stood motionless, his blade still lit, his face carved with grim severity. Slowly he deactivated the saber, the blue glow vanishing. Qui-Gon stepped closer, confusion and relief warring in his expression. "Master, why are you here?" Dooku turned to him, and for the first time there was no hiding the weariness etched into his features. "Because I could not let you fall, Qui-Gon, not to him, not to the darkness." Obi-Wan frowned. "You knew about the Sith." "Yes," Dooku said, his voice heavy with shame. "I knew of their rise. I was drawn into their web, their promises, their lies." Qui-Gon stiffened, his breath catching. "You joined them." Dooku nodded once, the admission like a blade to the heart. "I walked the edge of the abyss. I believed their claim that the Republic was doomed, that only through power could order be restored. But seeing you, seeing the boy, I know now the Force has other plans. The Chosen One is real. He is the will of the Force itself, striking back against the darkness." Qui-Gon's eyes searched his former master, torn between betrayal and compassion. Finally, his voice broke the silence. "If you weren't Maul's master, then who?" "The true Sith Lord is not here," Dooku said. His gaze hardened. "He hides in plain sight, Chancellor Palpatine, Darth Sidious." Obi-Wan's face drained of color. "The Chancellor." Dooku nodded grimly. "He is the architect of all this, the Trade Federation, the war to come. Even now he prepares an army in secret. bred for obedience, clones grown on Camino. Qui-Gon staggered back, his mind reeling. "You've seen this?" "I have lived it," Dooku confessed. "And I can no longer remain blind. I will stand with you, Qui-Gon, with the boy. The Force demands it." For a long moment there was only silence, broken by the distant roar of the battle outside. Finally, Qui-Gon stepped forward, placing a hand on his old master's shoulder. "Then we will face this together. For the sake of the boy, for the sake of the galaxy." Obi-Wan, though shaken, gave a small nod. "If you stand with us, Master Dooku, then perhaps we can win." Dooku bowed his head, shame still heavy upon him. "I will face whatever judgment the Council deems fit. But first, Sidious must be stopped." Qui-Gon activated his comlink, projecting a small hologram of the Jedi Council. His voice was calm but resolute as he relayed the truth. The death of Darth Maul, the betrayal of Count Dooku, and the revelation that Chancellor Palpatine was, in truth, the Dark Lord of the Sith. On the other end, Yoda and Mace Windu exchanged grave looks. "Certain of this, are you?" Yoda's voice was heavy. Dooku stepped into view, bowing his head. "There is no doubt, Master. He waits for me in the underworks of Coruscant. If you move now, you can end his reign before it begins." The council members exchanged hushed words. Finally, Windu spoke. "Then we go, Yoda, myself, Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Yaddle. We will face him." "May the Force be with you," Qui-Gon said, lowering the comlink. The three Jedi stood in the plasma chamber, the echoes of battle still ringing in the distance. But the true war they knew was only beginning. The plasma refinery had gone eerily quiet. The echoes of clashing sabers, the roar of Maul's fury, even the low hum of energy conduits all seemed muted in the aftermath. The three Jedi stood in silence, the ghost of combat still clinging to them. Obi-Wan's breath was steady but quick. His master and his grandmaster stood before him, united in a way he never imagined. He looked at Maul's absence in the abyss, then back at Dooku. What has the galaxy become? Qui-Gon broke the silence first. His voice was firm but touched with compassion. "You've taken a great risk, Master, to reveal yourself like this." Dooku's gaze lingered on the void where Maul had fallen. His expression was grave, almost mournful. "It was no risk. It was necessity. The path I've walked, it nearly destroyed me, and yet here stands proof that the Force itself resists the Sith." His eyes flickered toward Qui-Gon, then Obi-Wan. "I had forgotten what it meant to believe." Obi-Wan tilted his head slightly, his caution unshaken. "And now you expect the Council to trust you, after admitting you served them?" Dooku's mouth tightened. "No, I expect their judgment, and I will accept it, but first, Palpatine must be stopped." The sounds of blaster fire echoed distantly through the corridors. The battle for Theed was not yet finished. Qui-Gon placed a hand on Obi-Wan's shoulder. "The Viceroy must still be captured. Naboo must be freed before the Senate can even begin to accept what we've discovered." Dooku nodded. "Go, secure the hangar. I will remain here in case more enemies come." Obi-Wan hesitated. Leaving a man who admitted to consorting with the Sith felt reckless, but Qui-Gon's trust seemed unshakable. Together, master and apprentice departed, their footsteps echoing down the marble halls. Dooku stood alone once more, his saber still in hand. He felt the currents of the Force flowing violently around him. His betrayal of Sidious was now complete. There would be no forgiveness, only death awaited him, unless the Jedi could end it first. On Coruscant, the Jedi Council chamber was shrouded in grave silence. The holographic transmission from Naboo had ended, leaving behind only the weight of Dooku's words. Yoda's ears drooped slightly, his clawed hands resting on his cane. A Sith Lord in our midst, in the Senate itself. Mace Windu's jaw was tight, his voice edged with controlled fury. "If what Dooku says is true, if Palpatine is indeed Sidious, then we've been blind, manipulated. The Order itself is in danger." Ki-Adi-Mundi shifted in his seat, his expression disbelieving. Count Dooku's claims could be a trap. He admits he was involved with the Sith. Perhaps this is merely a ploy to lead us into ambush. Yaddle, her tone calm but firm, interjected. "Or perhaps it is truth. And if so, every moment we delay brings Sidious closer to power." Plo Koon's rasping voice emerged through his mask. "Maul's existence already proves the Sith have returned. If Dooku wished only to deceive, why reveal so much? The clones, Camino, these details are not easily fabricated." Silence fell again. All eyes turned toward Yoda. The Grand Master's eyes were closed, his presence deep within the currents of the Force. After a long moment, he opened them. his voice low but resolute. "To the underworks of Coruscant, we must go. Sidious will not wait. Strike now, the Jedi must." Mace nodded sharply. "I will lead this strike. Yoda, Plo Koon, Ki Adi Mundi, Yaddle, 5 blades united. Dangerous this will be," Yoda murmured, but his small form straightened. Yet no choice there is. The decision was made. The Jedi Council's most powerful masters would move against the Dark Lord of the Sith, not in rumor, not in whispers, but in open battle. Back on Naboo, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan swept through the Grand Palace corridors. Droids crumpled before them, their sabers deflecting bolts with practiced precision. The two Jedi moved like shadows, unstoppable in their momentum. At last they burst into the throne room. Viceroy Newt Gunray and his advisors cowered behind a wall of battle droids. "Don't let them through!" the Nemoidian screeched. It was futile. The Jedi pressed forward, carving through the droid ranks. Within moments, the throne room was silent, save for the hum of sabers. Gunray and his advisors dropped their weapons, their hands trembling. Qui-Gon deactivated his blade. "You are under arrest, Viceroy. The Trade Federation's occupation is ended." Relief spread across the faces of Naboo's guards as they stormed in to secure the prisoners. Obi-Wan looked to his master, his voice hushed. "It's finished." But Qui-Gon shook his head. "No, my friend, this was only the beginning." While Naboo's forces celebrated their liberation, Dooku stood alone at the edge of the plasma pit where Maul had fallen. He stared into the abyss, haunted. He remembered Sidious's voice, the seductive promises of power and order. He remembered his own words of agreement, the oaths whispered in shadow. And now he remembered the boy, Anakin Skywalker, who had stirred such conviction in Qui-Gon. "Balance," Dooku muttered bitterly. "What balance can there be in a galaxy so broken?" But in the quiet he felt it, the Force moving, restless, alive. Perhaps Qui-Gon was right. Perhaps the Chosen One was not just myth. Perhaps the darkness could yet be undone. He turned as Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan re-entered the chamber, their expressions firm. "The Viceroy is in custody," Qui-Gon reported. "The Queen is safe. Naboo is free." "Good," Dooku said softly. He looked at them both, his tone grave. "Then it is time to prepare for what comes next. The Council will not hesitate. If they confront Sidious now, he will unleash everything." Qui-Gon's eyes met his old master's. "Then we must have faith." Obi-Wan crossed his arms, his suspicion not yet softened. "Faith is one thing, but if Palpatine is who you claim he is, the Republic will not believe it, not easily." Dooku's face hardened. "Then we must show them the truth, no matter the cost." Night fell on Coruscant, the city's endless lights piercing the darkness. Far below the gleaming towers, in the industrial sector, shadows stretched across durasteel walkways and cavernous factories. It was here Sidious waited, cloaked in darkness, his patience wearing thin. But it was not Dooku who came to him. From the skies above, a Republic transport descended. Its landing struts hissed against the durasteel floor. The ramp lowered with a clang. 5 figures emerged, their sabers igniting in unison. Green, blue, violet, light against the dark. Yoda's small silhouette led the charge, his ears tilting forward. His voice carried through the smog. "Darth Sidious, at last revealed you are." Across the platform, a hooded figure emerged from the shadows. His face, though partially obscured, bore the unmistakable features of Chancellor Palpatine. His lips curled into a thin smile, his eyes glinting faintly yellow. "So," Sidious said, his voice smooth, mocking, "the Jedi have finally seen through the veil, but you are too late. The Republic is already mine." Mace Windu raised his saber, his tone cold. "Chancellor Palpatine, you are under arrest." Sidious's laughter echoed across the sector, cold and cruel. "Oh, my dear Jedi, you will find I am not so easily disposed of." With a sudden motion, he cast off his cloak, revealing black robes beneath. His hands rose, and with them the air itself seemed to scream. Blue lightning crackled from his fingertips, arcing toward the Jedi with blinding fury. The battle had begun. Far away, in Naboo's palace, Qui-Gon and Dooku stood before Queen Amidala. She was regal, even in exhaustion, her face painted, her voice steady. "Your order has delivered us from the Trade Federation," she said. "But what of this revelation? You claim the Chancellor himself is behind this?" Qui-Gon bowed his head. "The Jedi Council has gone to confront him as we speak. If Master Dooku's knowledge is true, the Republic itself hangs in the balance." Amidala's expression hardened. "Then I will do my part. The Senate must hear the truth. If corruption festers even at its highest level, we must root it out. Naboo will not remain silent. Obi-Wan, standing nearby, glanced at Dooku. The older master said nothing, but his eyes betrayed a spark of something Obi-Wan could not name. Hope, perhaps, or regret. Later, when the corridors had grown quiet, Dooku stood with Qui-Gon in a private chamber. Obi-Wan had gone to rest, leaving Master and former Master alone once more. "You have changed," Qui-Gon said softly. Dooku's shoulders slumped. "I have wandered too far into the shadows. I fear the Order will never forgive me." "The Force forgives more than we do," Qui-Gon replied. "And if you truly wish to make amends, then help me train Anakin. Together, we can prepare him for what lies ahead." Dooku looked at him, startled. "You would trust me with the boy? After all I've confessed?" "I would trust the will of the Force," Qui-Gon said firmly. "And the Force brought you here, not Sidious, not the Council, you." For the first time in years, Count Dooku felt a measure of peace stir within him. Perhaps it was not too late to return. Not too late to stand on the right side of history. He bowed his head. "Very well. For the boy. For the future. I will stand with you, Qui-Gon Jinn." Meanwhile, on Coruscant, the battle between Jedi and Sith continued. Sidious leapt forward with impossible speed, his form a blur of shadows and scarlet light. His blades slashed in whirling arcs, striking with both precision and savagery. Yoda met him first, green blade intercepting red in a furious clash. The shockwave rattled the platform, sparks raining down as the two ancient titans locked eyes. Then Mace was there, Varpad channeling Sidious's fury back upon him. Each strike of his purple blade was a storm, controlled yet relentless. Plo Koon swept wide, driving Sidious back with steady, deliberate strikes, his Kel-Dor mask reflecting the clash of sabers. Ki-Adi-Mundi pressed from the other side, his long limbs giving him reach, his blade a rapid series of probing jabs, and Yaddle, fierce and unyielding, wove through the melee with a dancer's grace, her saber-cutting arcs of green light aimed at Sidious's exposed flanks. Five masters united, the embodiment of the Jedi's strength. But Sidious was the dark side incarnate. He moved like liquid fire, spinning, twisting, hurling his body through impossible contortions. One saber locked against Yoda's while the other lashed out at Mace, forcing the Corran Master back. His free hand shot out, loosing a torrent of force lightning that Plow barely deflected with his blade, sparks crawling across his armor. The air trembled with his laughter, manic and filled with hate. "You think yourselves righteous," Sidious roared, "but you are weak, shackled by your code, blinded by your counsel. This galaxy belongs to the strong." He somersaulted over Ki-Adi-Mundi, his blade carving a searing line across the Syrian's shoulder. Ki-Adi stumbled, teeth gritted but held firm. Yaddle pressed in, cutting low, only for Sidious to twist, catching her blade between his crossed sabers before blasting her backward with a force push that sent her skidding across the durasteel. Mace advanced, his strikes faster, sharper, feeding on Sidious's own darkness through Varpad. Their blades clashed in an explosion of light, purple and red reflecting in Sidious's eyes as he grinned. "Yes, fight me, Windu, let the darkness in." But Windu did not break. He was the calm at the storm center. The battle spilled into the foundry itself, sparks and molten light casting long shadows as sabers carved through pipes and machinery. Steam hissed around them, the very environment seeming to writhe under the clash of light and dark. Ki-Adi-Mundi pressed Sidious from behind, his long strikes driving toward the Sith Lord's exposed flank. Sidious pivoted, and in a blur, one crimson blade carved across Ki-Adi's torso. The Syrian gasped, his saber falling from limp fingers as his body collapsed to the durasteel floor. "No!" Plo Koon surged forward, his blue blade a storm of precision. He struck with the fury of a warrior, each blow forcing Sidious backward. But Sidious only laughed, catching Plo's blade with one saber while blasting him with lightning from the other hand. Plo screamed through gritted teeth, his mask sparking before Yoda leapt between them, deflecting the bolts back. Yaddle returned to the fray, fierce determination etched into her every strike. She and Yoda moved in tandem, two of the same species, two sides of the same light. Together they pushed Sidious back, driving him toward a catwalk suspended above a pool of molten metal. But Sidious was cunning. With a feint and a sudden burst of speed, he slipped between them, his saber slashing across Yaddle's side. She gasped, stumbling, and with a brutal thrust, Sidious impaled her through the chest. Yoda's cry of anguish shook the chamber. "Yaddle!" Her body fell lifeless into the abyss below. The duel raged on, but the Jedi were fewer now. 3 remained, Yoda, Mace, and Plo. They closed ranks, their sabers forming an unbreakable wall. Yoda's Ataru acrobatics, Mace's unrelenting Varpad, and Plo's calm, steady form combined into a storm that even Sidious began to strain against. Sidious lashed out with everything, lightning that scorched the ceiling, force screams that rattled the very metal beneath them, deceptive feints that nearly claimed Windu's life. But with every strike, every maneuver, the Masters pressed closer. Plow swept low, forcing Sidious to leap back. Yoda was there in an instant, green saber flashing in a blur of speed that forced Sidious onto the defensive. And Mace, eyes unblinking, movements precise, found the rhythm of Sidious's fury and turned it back against him, their blades locked, red against green, purple, and blue. Sparks erupted, lighting the chamber like fire. Sidious's eyes darted, searching for an opening, but for the first time in years he felt it, fear. Mace pushed forward, his voice a thunderclap. "Your reign ends tonight, Sith!" With a unified surge, the 3 Jedi struck. Mace's blade cleaved one of Sidious's sabers in half. Plo's strike forced the other wide, and Yoda, with a leap and a spinning strike, drove his saber through Sidious's chest. The Sith Lord screamed, the sound echoing through the industrial halls like a dying storm. His body convulsed as the darkness writhed, then fell silent. Darth Sidious, Sheev Palpatine, was dead. The 3 Masters stood in the wreckage, the silence deafening after the storm. 2 of their own lay fallen, Yaddle and Ki-Adi-Mundi, gone. Their sacrifice seared into memory, but for the first time in a millennium the Sith were extinguished. The galaxy's fate had shifted. The Senate chamber was filled with a tension unlike any in living memory. Senators from thousands of systems filled their pods, murmuring in disbelief, anger, and fear as the truth unfolded before them. At the center, projected in the chamber's great holoscreens, was Mace Windu. His voice carried no rhetoric, no politics, only cold, unyielding truth. The Sith infiltrated the highest office of the Republic. Sheev Palpatine, elected Chancellor, was Darth Sidious, the Dark Lord who sought to enslave the galaxy through corruption and war. His plans extended to the creation of a secret clone army designed to turn the Jedi into weapons of conquest. Thanks to the sacrifice of our order, he is no more, but his shadow lingers. You must decide whether to rebuild this republic in his image or cleanse it of its corruption. The Senate erupted into chaos. Some cried out in disbelief, others demanded vengeance or investigations or reforms. Yet a new voice rose above the din, clear, strong, and steady. Mon Mothma of Chandrila. "The Republic cannot endure if it remains a breeding ground for Sith ambition," she declared. "We must restore integrity, limit corruption, and rebuild faith in democracy. If we do not, Palpatine's ghost will haunt us forever. I call for a vote of no confidence in the current system of executive power. Let us rebuild together." The chamber thundered with approval. In the days that followed, Mon Mothma was elevated to lead a transitional government, her reputation for honesty and reform guiding the Republic into a new era. Meanwhile, on the storm-lashed world of Kamino, a small Jedi delegation arrived. Yoda, with his cane once more in hand, walked the pristine white halls, flanked by Plo Koon and several knights. The Kaminoans bowed with eerie calm, their elongated heads tilting as they explained the scale of the project. Thousands of clone troopers bred for war, their training accelerated, their loyalty absolute. Yoda's ears drooped, his expression somber. "Slaves they are, bred for battle not of their choosing. End this must." The Kaminoans protested, but the Jedi were resolute. Production was shut down. Those clones already matured were given a choice: to serve in the Republic's security forces as volunteers, or to live freely in the galaxy, to carve paths as individuals rather than soldiers bred for slaughter. Many chose service, many more chose freedom. The galaxy shifted on its axis. A war had been averted before it began. On Coruscant, Count Dooku stood before the Jedi Council. The chamber was heavy with silence. Yoda sat forward in his chair, eyes half closed, his voice quiet but cutting. "Grave your crimes were, Dooku. Betrayal deep, yes. But choice to return you made. Why?" Dooku bowed his head, his noble bearing humbled. "Because I saw what my ambition blinded me to. The Force itself opposed Sidious. Through the rise of the Chosen One, through Maul's defeat, through the courage of those I once called brothers. I will not ask forgiveness, for I have no right, but I offer my blade, my life, to undo the harm I have wrought." Mace Windu's gaze was sharp, but not without consideration. "You exposed Sidious when none else could. Without you, the Republic would already be enslaved. That cannot be ignored." The council deliberated for hours. In the end, they did not absolve him, but neither did they cast him out. Dooku was permitted to remain within the Order, stripped of rank. His presence watched carefully. Yet in time, his actions spoke louder than his shame, for he devoted himself to one purpose: training the boy who would shape destiny. The sun dipped low over the Jedi Temple as Anakin Skywalker stood before the three figures who would guide him: Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Count Dooku. The boy's eyes were wide, filled with curiosity and the stubborn fire of destiny. "Are you really all going to teach me?" he asked. Qui-Gon smiled, kneeling to meet him at eye level. "Yes, Anakin, you will learn from all of us. Obi-Wan will teach you discipline. I will guide you in listening to the will of the living force. And Count Dooku," he glanced at his old master, whose stern expression softened ever so slightly, "will give you wisdom from his years and show you the dangers of the path you must never walk." Dooku stepped forward, his tall frame casting a long shadow over the boy. His voice was steady, almost paternal. "You will walk the line between light and dark, Anakin, but you must learn that true strength lies not in power, but in restraint. If I can pass that lesson to you, perhaps the galaxy may yet be spared the fate Sidious desired." Anakin grinned. "So I get 3 masters. That doesn't sound so bad." Obi-Wan rolled his eyes, but beneath the exasperation was a warmth he had never expected to feel for the boy. A brotherhood was already forming. Years later, historians would look back on this moment as a divergence, the point at which destiny shifted. With Sidious's death, the Clone Wars never ignited. The Jedi remained guardians of peace, not generals of war. Corruption in the Senate, though never erased, was curbed by Mon Mothma's reforms. And the Sith, their 1,000-year plan cut short, vanished into the annals of history. Count Dooku lived out his days not as a Sith Lord, but as a penitent master, guiding Anakin toward balance. Qui-Gon, vindicated in his belief, nurtured the boy's compassion and independence. Obi-Wan, ever dutiful, tempered him with discipline. And Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one, grew into a Jedi of wisdom and power, a man of balance rather than destruction. The galaxy breathed anew. For the first time in generations, the light truly prevailed, and that will be the end of today's story. I hope you enjoyed. Comment down below what you thought of the story and let me know what other what-if stories you'd like to hear. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you.